No, it's unreal.
Hide.
You can do. Oh, okay. I was gonna say you can stand behind it, but you can't. It did it anyway. Please,
Just lying to me,
assuming.
Jay. Just lying to me.
Oh
Just lie to
shit!
me.
He lies all the time.
310 ring, motherfucker.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thanks, Daddy. It's 2 310 rings.
And put a full set together for cheap. Now the way it is they're seeing, like, now we're seeing like 2017 and right now in this quarter of 2018 we're seeing more people buying AMD. Like everything, I just watched a video of somebody talking about like the Amazon like details from like stuff that was bought like in a top 20, and like processors processors up to like the 6 slot or AMD chips that were like the most bought in from 2017 and now, and like you didn't get to like the Kaby Lake chips until like 8. So like they're seeing an increase in people buying AMDs. So like I think newer games, newer developers will be able to bridge like being able to have both perform at like at least the same kind of performance.
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to get bound down to like, I mean, because there are different internal calls on the chips and how they manage and how they actually get this performance out of these chips, right? The whole thing with Spectre and Meltdown, the whole thing with Spectre vulnerability is that you have predictive analytics that are happening with the chip, and the chip is predicting what your next actions are going to be and then queuing up those responses, so when you actually do execute that, they return really quickly. The problem then is that it leads to a lot of vulnerabilities in the actual delivery, and actually has a lot of exposures in the delivery and the memory addresses that this information is written into. So this is the issue with Spectre, is that it allows for that to be exploited. Now, if you take that out, if you take predictive analytics out, or you take the predictive engine out of the CPUs, they drop like by 30% in terms of performance. So this is the problem, right? So it is how the chips are actually manufactured, right? An Intel chip and an AMD chip do not have the same core structure,
Yeah.
same like architecture. So that's the issue. So, you know, the Threadrippers are going to be really powerful, but you know, they're not going to perform as well as the Intel ones for gaming, because when the gaming developers are coding it, they're coding it for certain things. When they're compiling it, they're compiling it for a certain chipset, right, or certain architecture. So that becomes the issue, right? So when you're developing your code, you almost have to develop 2 sets of code, right, and then figure out how to roll it into one. So if the system is picking up this AMD chip, then this is the set of instructions to run to bring out the performance, versus if it's the Intel chip. That's why the Intel chip will, for gaming, perform better, because more people code their games for that type of architecture. So it's all about a shell game, right? Like, okay, so Threadripper does better here because they're making certain hardware register calls in their chip design to actually maximize this thing. And the opposite side, they're doing other things. So, this is where you get into like the whole like architecture, right? They use the same Intel, or they use the x86, x64 architecture, but the way in which they implement and squeeze out the performance and tweak it is what basically makes them good.
Yeah.
And that becomes like the difference. And so what happens is when you compile a program, you basically are compiling it down to machine language, right? So all the developing stuff that's out today is high level developing stuff, right? Where you write it in English in essence, right? All that, when you compile that, all that gets basically turned down to binary. And that binary basically then is, within the instruction set of the code, you can actually, from the chip manufacturer, you can have ways to actually access certain functionality of the chip that you can put into your code to optimize things, right? So that's how like the DirectX which is the graphic framework from Microsoft, implemented to leverage the video card, right? And so when like NVIDIA and AMD basically are producing their graphic cards, they're basically working within that framework, but they're making different calls on their hardware to optimize the output. So this is why NVIDIA is dominating right now, is because they interpret and they are able to crunch that information faster than what the other competitors can do. So that gives them a better output. So everybody runs DirectX 11 or DirectX 12. So WoW just started to use DirectX 12. So they've upgraded to the latest framework for basically writing and drawing graphics. And so the drivers that you get for your graphic card basically are supporting those types of calls, and the way in which the software that's supporting the hardware is actually interpreting those calls and then pushing things to other areas of the card or memory management and back and forth and screen draws and refresh rates. All that stuff comes down to the way in which the hardware is handling the stuff. So same thing you see with the CPUs. So you're going to get those back and forth, and it's definitely going to kind of move back and forth, but those are still real challenging issues for the game industry. Now, you're right. If you buy like an Intel or you buy like an AMD and you're just playing games, then you probably won't notice the difference too much, right? But if you're doing like a lot of things like on one machine, like if you're playing like the game like in 1440 or 3520 like 4K resolution, and you're trying to stream at like 1080, and you're all doing it through one video card, yeah, you're gonna start noticing differences that are happening between each other. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna start noticing some differences. But if you're just like, yeah, I'm just logging in, just gonna play some games, then yeah, you're pretty cool. Probably can get by with like what you're looking at. But so I mean, that's why those things are important for developers to pay attention to. Is that they have those opportunities when they're coding the game, when they're bringing in like the DirectX 12, DirectX 11 frameworks, and they're putting that stuff together. They have opportunities to optimize things. That's why you hear things about like optimization. This game is not optimized, et cetera, et cetera. It's because they haven't taken those steps to really tweak those values, make those changes to take advantage of the hardware that people have in their machines. They're running it at a very kind of very low common denominator level, which obviously doesn't really benefit people who have like higher end rigs, because they can't really run the game at 120 frames per second or 240 frames per second and get that smooth gameplay experience that they might get from like another type of game which is optimized. So those are going to be all over the place in terms of like what people are looking at or what people do, but that all gets down to the way in which the code is ran for those different types of systems, and can they take advantage of that? And that's why game manufacturers and developers and code developers have to get into bed together to be able to figure out, hey, if we're doing these types of calls and we're processing these types of voxels or polygons, we're using this framework, and we're going to be running off an NVIDIA card, you're going to have to be able to crunch that information, especially if it's like like a first-person shooter or something else, to pass information along.
I've been trying to get in on this server. Well, I tried to get in at
set of things that have to be configured.
into
And when
anything
it's not, people really feel
past
it, because
couple
they
of
say
hours.
it's really sluggish. It doesn't perform well. I'm only capped at like 60 frames per second. I'm not getting that smooth feeling, etc., etc. So,
so after
there's
like
gonna be that. So
2.5
we've
hours
been
trying to
working
get
on
in, getting kicked
in
out,
2008,
getting in and
it's still an
getting
issue
no
today.
characters found,
Continue to be an issue
seeing
as long as there's
nothing
two different
found
card
at all.
manufacturers or chip
I finally got in
Because,
and it's
they're
laggy.
usually looking
It's
to
really
figure out
laggy.
how they can up their performance while decreasing their heat signature and get more cores in, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if AMD's focus was to be on the gaming market, then probably some of their stuff that they're doing today would change in terms of what they're looking at for like upgrades, and vice versa. But at the end of the day, I mean, you really do get pretty much the same type of performance. It's just at what level are you looking to perform with the hardware. You know, like it was just straight up game playing and like some simple stuff. Either one, it's probably so close together you couldn't even tell what you're playing on.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the benchmarks with the i9 and the 1950 that I was talking about, there's only a 20% difference in performance. For the AMD chip. There's 20% more performance in multiple benchmarks for like gaming and rendering, and just like video rendering for like any kind of editing and stuff. So it has a little tiny bit in this whole world of computing power. 20% more, which is nothing. It's a needle in a haystack is what that 20% is. And the new AMD chip, the 2nd gen Threadripper, which is 2 steps above that chip, is 30% more than the generation below it, 2 steps down.
What's the
and it's $700 more. The benchmarks were showing 30% more performance, which was it's the 2990WX XW.
Oh, 29. Okay, I was looking for the model number. Yeah, okay.
It's like a 30% increase from 1950, which the only thing that is built for, because the 2nd gen Threadripper is not built for gaming. It's more for professional use with like tons of open programs, video rendering, stuff like that. It's not built for gaming. It's not a gaming chip. And like from what I'm hearing from other people that talk about like the whole AMD versus Intel thing is like, oh well, the new Threadripper, it's got this much power and stuff, so it's got to be better than Intel, and like the i9 would absolutely blow it out of the water when it comes to gaming. Like it wouldn't be able to touch that chip because it's not built for that.
Yeah,
right, yeah,
I have no idea what I'm doing.
What is your business here?
Yeah, because like look at the Threadripper. Yeah, like the
Meet
Threadripper.
2990 is what 32 cores.
2990 WX.
Okay, if I meet Pinky.
2950. The 2990 WX PBO. It's scoring 90.9 in average frames per second for gaming.
Northgate. Is this the
Intel Core
Northgate?
i9 7960X is scoring average frame rate of 102.7. So almost 13 frames faster than the Threadripper. At that level, let's see what it looks like in the next one. Look at Tom's hardware comparison point. FPS 99th percentile. Threadripper is 67.6. Intel Core i9 is 71.8%. Frames per second, Civilization 6. All right, i9 gives you 111.6. Threadripper 2950. Okay, 2950X, 97.4. So it came about like 11, about like 100, about like 15 frames per second slower. Frames per second in Warhammer. Warhammer. So 116. I'm sure I chose that game. 106 for Threadripper. Okay, so yeah. So frames per second in Grand Theft Auto. Okay, here we go. Grand Theft Auto. i9 is coming in at 106.2. And Threadripper is coming in at 93.6. Okay, what's the next one? Hitman. How many of these did we do? We did a lot. AOTS, Far Cry 5, Far Cry 5. It's kind of new. 107.3, i9, Threadripper 101. A little closer. Frames per second in Middle Earth Shadows of War, 99.8 for i9, 97.4. So that's where they may have done some optimization for the AMD. Gaming price efficiency costs. Okay, that's good to see. Price-wise. Productivity by performance. Yeah, so yeah, multi-core, right, yeah. So productivity by performance, right? So it could be a stronger stronger machine for like rendering and working with like multi-layered images.
It's
for that. Well,
it's definitely a workload chip.
Yeah.
Not really a gaming chip.
Yeah. We see platforms. Choose so, which CPU platform you choose to depend on two main factors: your budget and what types of software you use.
Oh.
You want the best performance for the majority of the games and productivity apps. We are lightly threaded. Intel Skylake X top choice. However, you want best speed for money, or you use a lot of heavy threaded apps, and the Threadripper 2 has it. And you're simply after the best bang for your buck. Threadripper 2 is the clear winner. Features overclocking, coolers, motherboard, gaming performance, productivity performance, value, and total. 3D rendering.
Set
Oh yeah, 3D
1 minute
rendering would be pretty good. Like,
now.
you can see like a rendering farm based upon these chips. Oh yeah, I wonder what the motherboard selection looks like too for those.
As far as gaming and streaming goes on one system, like I'm going to do,
Yeah,
I feel like going with the Threadripper 1, not that one. The 1950X.
Yeah, the first one?
Yeah, I think that's the better route to go because I think it's a couple dollars cheaper, and it gives you about the same performance in game.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it does actually. Yeah, you definitely should try that route and see what it actually does for you. Obviously, you want to make sure your memory, right? So, obviously, make sure your memory is as good as you can get it, right? So, like, like the DDRs, make sure like I think mine's like, oh, hold on, let me look at the speed of the memory, right? So make sure that whatever motherboard you get, like, you can try to get as fast as possible on the speed of the memory.
I put mine a little bit, but my choice that I have in my shopping cart is in the it's like the second speed lower than the top speed. It's like 3200 is like not the middle mark, it's just above the middle mark.
Oh yeah, I forget what this one is. I have these rip jaws. I don't even remember what the rip jaws are. I have to look at the extra configuration. But yeah, take a look at the memory is obviously going to be important for you, because that was obviously going to load stuff for you. Your hard drive, solid state, so obviously.
I can tell you exactly what I have my shop. I can tell you exactly what I'm looking at.
Alright, let's see what you got.
So for power supply, I went with the EVGA Supernova 850 Golden.
Okay. Golden, good.
For $130, not bad. Spent more on 600. The G-Skill Trident's RGB 32 gigs, 3200 DDR4.
Wait, what's that again?
The G-Skill Trident's 32 gig, 3200 speed.
Trident Z's?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2x8 for 169, 16 stick. It's not bad. Was it 32? DDR4?
4x8 for 379.
What's the DDR? Is it DDR4?
Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. It's a good pick. All right.
That Ryzen Threadripper 1950 16 core.
Okay.
2 Crucial MX500 M.2
SSDs. See if you can pick up like a Samsung EVO. Those Evo drives are supposedly some of the best solid state drives out there.
They are
So,
also not in my price range.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe not right now, but keep it on the radar. That's what I was talking about. That's what's actually on sale on Amazon.
I've been looking for getting one of those for a while since before I dropped this hard drive in here.
Yeah, like Brian picked up one of those hard drives like 2 months back because they had them on Amazon for like less than $100. So definitely, do you use Reddit?
I don't.
Okay, you should use Reddit because there's some pretty good forums or subreddits on there, and the ones I'm actually focusing on like PC parts, PC building, and it's a great subforum. Let me see if I get you the actual name for it because I think it's one thing. I always think it's wrong. Hold on, let me look at my iPad. Hold on. Hold on. So let's see the subforum. What's it going to be? Subforum is going to be.
And for cooling, since the Threadripper doesn't come with a stock cooler.
Oh yeah, what are you gonna get for that?
The EVGA 280mm water cooler.
EVGA what? How many milliliters?
280. 2113.
Take a look at it. Oh, it's a closed loop system. Okay.
That's what I use now. I use the
If you look at the Corsair closed loop systems.
I'm running Corsair.
Hey, what's up, Alec?
Hi.
Yeah, Corsair is pretty good actually.
Yeah.
Especially for like those closed loop systems. Like I had a closed loop Hydro, I think like the H80. And
I'm currently using the Corsair Hydro H80i V2.
yeah, that's the one I was using before I got my open loop cooling system. Which I have to tell you, by far, if you want a silent setup that really reduces the heat, you have to go open loop cooling with the coolant because, I mean, listen. I'm gonna put my mic next to my PC. Tell me if you hear anything.
Let me know when you put it in.
I did. You didn't hear anything, did you?
No.
Yeah, because that's how quiet it is.
Well, to be fair, my Hydro H115i is pretty darn quiet. I rarely hear the fans going off.
Is that the triple fan one?
It's the it only has 2. It's a smaller system.
140.
115 is the replacement for the one. Let's see. The one that I bought first.
You said the 115. I thought you said
115. Yeah, 115. I. Don't forget the I at the end.
So.
I first had the 1110i GT, but that one sprung a leak. at
I like the LED face better
Oh, yeah.
than the one that I have.
But to be honest, if I were to buy one now, I would probably buy ROG Strix. Their new, really nice looking one with the little monitor in it, with a little screen.
Oh, a little screen setup. Nice.
Yeah, so you
Nice.
can have a little GIF or a movie or whatnot running. It's so unnecessary, but you know, you just gotta have it. You don't need anything like that. You don't even need RGB. But
No.
you know, if you have, you can put it up next to your monitors and show everything off on the stream. And of
Yeah,
course,
that's
you need a second cam just to show that stuff off. But I have that. I have it, so I'm fine.
Stay good. You're good for a while.
Yeah, I'm good for that. I just don't have the money to buy it. There's a lot
Oh,
of
I see.
funny things I would like to buy, RGB wise.
I gotcha.
But then again, I don't know. I love ROG. I freaking love them. But the problem is, will they have the same quality as Corsair? Seeing as they're new in the water cooling business.
In that space, yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. I think they have Asus has really nice quality overall, but you know, this is something new for them. They haven't really tried it before, and they released, I think it was 3 or 4 new water coolers.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So they
Let's
have
see, let me see here.
different versions.
Yeah. When I redo my setup again, I'm changing the actual. So right now, like this open loop system, the nibs that connect to the hardware,
Yeah.
are just like pass-through nibs, right? They just just pass the liquid through, and so at each connection point between one nib and the other one is the tube.
Yeah.
And the tube gets tied down by like a zip tie or something else, right? So in the future, I want to put in those. I forget their actual technical term, but basically they're like shut-off valves. So at each connection point.
Oh, you mean the thingamajigs?
Yes, you put the shut-off valves.
Yeah.
So when you want to swap the hardware, you can just shut off the valve on both ends, then disconnect the actual hardware without
yeah.
actually losing any liquid.
Yeah.
Because the current setup is, once I want to replace this graphic card, I have to literally drain the system to put in a new graphic card.
Yeah, I
And
saw
so I'm gonna let that sit for a
Linus
while.
Tech Tips was using that. Seemed to be really nice.
Oh, it's really nice. It's just a bitch, but unless you configure it with those shut-off nibs,
Yeah.
then the maintenance becomes so much easier. Otherwise, any change, you gotta drain the whole system.
But is there actually any downside to a closed system other than you can't
Yeah,
do any maintenance and stuff?
Yeah, the downside for me with the closed system was that it wasn't ever as quiet, and it was always here for example.
Yeah.
When I run my computer and I'm running, say, WoW at like, with the DirectX 12 at like the 2560 with like, getting over 200 frames per second and also streaming.
Yeah.
The CPU and GPU, they never go above 45 degrees.
Yeah.
On the old system that I had, using the Hydro 80,
Yep.
I would constantly be closer to this mid-60s. So literally, 20-degree difference.
Really?
Between the two. Yeah, and it's that goddamn quiet. Like, that liquid coolant is like amazingly quiet, and it keeps the systems amazingly cool, because this room used to be hot. It's mildly slightly warmer than the rest of the house, and I even have the cover, the CPU open
Oh,
because I'm too lazy to put it back on.
yeah.
But it's basically opened and it's not that hot. In the old system, you could definitely tell when you're running it for a while and you're doing like a couple things like that, that heat got up there, and because the fans were running to try to cool everything down. But because the liquid open system here covers the CPU block and the video card, it is quiet and cool.
That's really weird because the 110 well, not really that weird, seeing as the 110 system is supposed to be, well, was supposed to be way better than the 80 system, but I never had it running more than maybe 42 degrees Celsius, of course, yeah. Which is
Right, yeah, Celsius, yeah.
yeah, which is like what, 95-ish, is it? Hang on.
Hi. Yeah. Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
But
You're welcome.
it is so much.
Yeah.
so
Oh.
much
Oh.
nicer.
No. Yeah. 30 is 95-ish. So yeah, 107.
Yeah.
I
So
topped
see,
off, topped out at 107. Never got above that.
107? Oh wow, okay. Yeah, this thing has not given me any issues. The only, like I said, it's a bitch for maintenance because I didn't have those shut-off knobs or you know, those valves. But once I redo this, I'm gonna keep an open loop system because I like the ability to like change the coolant color and you kind of play around with that. But I also like the fact that the fans, you don't need to have as many, right? So literally I have 4 fans.
Yeah.
3 on top, which is where the radiator is, so where the coolant goes into, right? And kind of circulates the heat out.
Yeah.
And 1 in the back to basically pull the rest of the heat out of the system. That's it. So those are running. You barely hear them. Everything else is done, and the CPU block is liquid cooled. The GPU block is liquid cooled, and that is so much nicer at the end of the day because you can actually run those more intensive applications. You don't have to hear your fans spinning up. You don't have to worry about the closed loop because you never know with a closed loop. You don't know like over time like how much, you know, if you have even the slightest like opening, like if there's any evaporation that's happening with the liquid inside of there. The only way you'll know is if you start to see your temperature and the CPU start going up at certain times. You go, wait, I normally keep it around this. Why is it starting to creep up? Like,
Yeah, and that's how I noticed that something was wrong.
Right. At least with this, I can visually tell because I can go, okay, I can see it leaking a little bit.
Yeah.
We need to redo this. Or I can look at it and go, you know, that coolant doesn't look as clean or clear as it used to. I think we need to change it.
Well, you know, my biggest issue wasn't really that. Well, when my computer broke down for like 5 months, I thought it was the CPU having issues with the thermal paste.
Okay. Oh yeah, thermal paste up. Yeah.
So when I pulled that off to check it and I didn't see anything wrong with it, I put everything back and I did not notice then that I had a tiny little leak in the pump, which is
Oh no.
in the Corsair options. It's the block that's cooling everything. So